Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about something pretty cool, a totally new way to train marketing teams. Think of it less like a classroom and more like a high-stakes flight simulator, but for brand strategy.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a really critical question. In a world where everything is constantly changing, digital disruption, algorithm updates, is the way you're training your marketers actually getting them ready for today's chaotic market? Or is it still stuck in the past?
You see, there's this massive disconnect, right? On one side, you've got the old school way, passive lectures, case studies that only look backward. But on the other side, what modern marketing actually needs is, well, it's agility, it's technical know-how, and it's being able to make smart calls like right now. That's a huge gap.
So, how do we fix this? How do we bridge that gap? Well, the answer isn't just more training, it's better training. It's about a huge shift in thinking from just passively soaking up information to actively getting experience, but in a place where it's okay to mess up.
And that's where something called game-based learning comes in. Now, let's get one thing straight. This is not about slapping some cartoons on a quiz to make it fun. We're talking about using a real game, where the learning is woven right into the challenge itself. The whole point is to achieve very specific, very measurable goals. And this is a really important distinction to make. You've probably heard of gamification. That's just adding points and badges onto existing stuff. It's all about external rewards. But game-based learning, that's totally different. It builds the content into the game's DNA. The motivation isn't a badge, it's the thrill of cracking the code, of mastering the game itself. It comes from within. And look, the research on this is crystal clear. These simulated environments aren't just some new, flashy gimmick. They are, fundamentally, a better way to learn than just reading a book or watching a lecture. Okay, so we know what it is, but the big question is, why does it work so darn well? Let's get into the science of it, because it's pretty fascinating. First off, it all comes down to engagement. I mean, we've all been in those trainings where your mind starts to wander, right? Well, these interactive tools can jack up engagement by a huge 60%. That's not a small number. And that high level of engagement leads to something really powerful, a psychological state called flow. You know that feeling when you're so locked into something that time just flies by? That's flow. And when you're in that state, learning isn't a chore. You're just absorbing these complex ideas without even realizing it. This is where you can really see the magic happen. Think of learning as a ladder. Traditional training keeps you stuck on the bottom rungs, just remembering and understanding facts. But a simulation, it forces you to climb. You have to apply what you know, you have to analyze what's happening, and ultimately, you have to create your own strategies on the fly.
What's really cool is that this lines up perfectly with a well-known learning model, the 70-20-10 rule. It basically says that a whopping 70% of real, meaningful learning doesn't happen in a classroom. It happens on the job through experience.
And that's the absolute key takeaway here. A simulation delivers that critical 70%, that hands-on experience, but it does it in a fraction of the time. And, maybe most importantly, you can make mistakes without blowing a real budget or damaging your brand's reputation. All right, enough with the theory. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. What are the actual real-world skills your team can build with this? Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a digital sparring partner for your marketers. It's a safe space to try new strategies, to get knocked down, to get instant feedback, and to build up that strategic muscle. That way, when they step into the real ring for a major campaign, they're ready. Okay, so the theory is solid, and it sounds great in practice. But you're probably wondering, does it actually work? Does it move the needle? Let's look at the hard data. Yeah, the results are, well, they're kind of staggering. Studies that tracked this over time found that this type of learning boosted the excellence rate, that's the number of people who become top performers, by an incredible 79% compared to old school methods. And here's the thing, the knowledge actually sticks. Big companies like SAP have found that people remember 30% more of what they learned long term. This isn't just cramming for a test, it's knowledge that gets baked in and used on the job. And all that experience, that knowledge that actually sticks, it translates directly to the bottom line. We're talking about an average productivity boost of 22% for employees who go through this kind of training. That's a real measurable impact. So let's put it all together. You've got deep engagement that gets people into that flow state. You've got them thinking strategically, not just memorizing.
And you're giving them risk-free practice. What you're building is the one thing that matters most today: true marketing agility. So, I'll just leave you with this one final thought. In a market that changes literally by the second, is your team just learning, or are they getting experience? Because at the end of the day, which one are you willing to bet your company's future on?